Hi everyone, this is exercise 3C. Just going to cover the notes for simple interest. Let's get started. What is simple interest? Let's say you borrow money from a bank or a financial institution. They're going to charge you an extra amount of money in order for you to borrow. Also, if you deposit money into a savings account at a bank, so the bank is actually borrowing your money, the bank will pay you a small amount for you choosing them to lend your money to, and this amount is called interest, and the interest will be based on how much is being borrowed. Now there are two kinds of interest. There's simple interest and compound interest, and we're only going to be looking at simple interest today. And simple interest is based on your initial amount being invested, the rate, and the length and time. Now, a common mistake for these questions in 3C is that do they want your interest, just interest, or the amount after the interest has been applied? So simple interest formula. The formula is I equals P times R times T, and then you just divide it up by 100. So your I is your interest, P is your principal amount, so this means your starting amount that is borrowed, and then R is your interest rate, and T is your time, and this will be in years. And you're going to also be required to also find the final amount of the investment after interest has been applied. So all you need to do for your final amount, which is A, you just have to add your principal amount, so your starting amount plus your interest together to give you that final amount. Okay, and using this, so it's just your P plus whatever you get from your interest formula. Let's go through an example. Example 1, calculate the simple interest if your principal is 1,000, your rate's 5%, and time is 3 years. Just a note, for interest earned on bank account in real life, your principal amount will be your lowest amount for that month, not your starting amount, your lowest amount. So, let's do question 1. You first need to write your formula, I equals PRT over 100, sorry. And then sub in your values. So we know that our principal is 1,000 times our rate of 5% times 3 over 100. And this is going to give you $150. So the simple interest after 3 years is $150, just for that $1,000 being deposited. Next example, you have Alan and Rachel who plan to invest money for Kaylin, and they invest $4,000 for 30 months in a bank that pays 4.5% per annum. And there's two parts of this question. You first need to calculate your simple interest, and then your final amount available at the end of 30 months. So let's do the first part, your simple interest. So you just write down your formula. After you have your formula down, you just have to sub in your values. So our principal is 4,000, our rate is 4.5%, so 4.5 times in. Now, because we have 30 months, we need to use T as in years. So all you need to do is write it as a fraction. 30 over 12. That's 30 months over 12 months. This is all over 100. In your calculation, you're going to get $450, so that's been earned. To find your final amount available at the end, you just use your amount equals your principal plus your interest. So your principal is 4,000, which has been invested, and then we've earned our $450 from that investment, and you get $4,450 for Kaylin. That's your final amount. So now you're not always after your interest amount to solve for. So if you rearrange your simple interest formula, our I equals PRT over 100, we can also solve for our interest rate, our time period, and also your principal amount. In order to do that, here are the formulas. So R is equal to 100I over PT. T equals 100I over PR, and P equals 100I over RT. So here's a little hint. Whenever you're trying to solve for either PRT, all you need to do is equals to 100I divided by the product of the remaining two. So for this one is rate, so that's just 100I over our principal times T. So these are our remaining unknown variables. Now, for t, remember from our previous question, it must be in years. So always make sure if you're working with months, make it to a fraction over 12. Example 1, let's keep going. Romy invests $2,500 at 8% per annum simple interest for a period of time to produce $50 interest. Okay, for how long did she invest the money? So we're trying to be finding T in this example. So we know that T is equal to 100I over PR. So 100 times 50 over 2,500 times 8. Doing your calculation, you'll get 0.25 years. I want to be a bit more specific. I can just times that by 12, and that'll give me 3 months. Example 2. Let's try to find your principal amount. So we're trying to find P, which earns $500 simple interest over 3 years at 8% per annum. And we're going to round to the nearest cent. So we got our formula, P equals to 100I over RT. So then we sub in our unknowns, our unknown value, That's 100 times 500 over 8 times 3. And that's going to give you $2,083.33. So this is our initial amount that we have deposited. Number 3. An investor invests P dollars and then wants to double this amount of money. And we're trying to figure out how much interest must be earned to double this initial amount. So we know that for the final amount, it's amount equals to your interest plus P. And we're trying to find 2P because we've doubled our amount. So 2P equals I plus P. How much interest? So we just have to figure out what I is. So if I subtract P from both sides, we just get I equals to P. So this is how much has been earned by interest to double your amount. So your interest equals your principal amount. Your interest has equaled your principal amount in order for you to double your amount of money. And B, what simple interest rate is required to double the initial amount in 8 years? So we're trying to figure out what our R is. That means R equals to 100I over PT. And because we know this formula, we can just sub in our values. So this is 100P because our interest, I equals to P. Remember from our previous question, I equals to P. So that's 100P over P times 8. And then you can cancel out your P's. So that R equals 100 over 8. That's going to give you the 12.5%.